Hi, Trisha Morris here from Club Scrap to show you how to turn this pile of papers into a beautiful mini accordion hinge book. Now this is from the Pattern Play Deluxe Collection, or you can get it separately at clubscrap.com. Well, let's get started by folding some inner pages. Now you've got a series of 10 plain white pages that will make up the basic structure of our book, and I'm not going to score them, but I'm still going to use my score pal to help me out with this folding. Each page needs to get folded in half. So I'll just place it vertically into my score pal, so it's the long way, and bring up the bottom to the top. And that corner of the score pal just makes a little cradle, basically, for my page to sit, and that allows my corners to be nice and squared off. And I can get a nice, easy fold without all the effort of trying to make sure I have those corners perfectly lined up before I make my crease. They already will be. So go ahead and fold all of those white inside pages. Once all your pages are folded, you can stack them up neatly and do a basic burnishing of the entire stack all at once with your bone folder. It's a big time saver. If you don't happen to have a score pal, of course, you can certainly fold all of those pages individually without it, but it just does a really nice job. Okay, the next we need to do is a little bit more prep work with these pages. We need to make a hole into the fold of each page. And this is actually not for stitching, but it's kind of for the binding process. We need to make a little hole 1 inch from the top and bottom edge of the page. So I'll just use a grid ruler. I don't need to have any particular measurement here, just so that I can kind of see from the edge. I need 1 inch, and then from this edge I'll just measure 1 inch up. And then you want to pierce directly into the fold of your page. Now I'm using an awl and a cork board for my first pierced hole. And you can use this then as a template for piercing the remaining pages. So to do that, you would simply nest them together, and you can do a few at a time. But instead of using my cork board, I'm actually going to use my little contraption here called a stitching cradle that I made. These are also available at clubscrap.com. And it just makes piercing through the fold or the crease a lot easier and more accurate. So I'm simply transferring my stitching holes into the pages below, keeping the original as my template, and I can probably do all the rest of these at the same time, nest them together, and then pierce. Next, to finish the binding preparation for my pages, I need to actually cut from this hole to this one with a ruler and craft knife. I think will probably be the best way to do it. You can actually try to freehand this if you'd like, but the important thing is that the slit you're making goes through the paper, which it did not, and that it goes from one stitching hole to the other to make a small little slit. And then you'll repeat that process for all of the pages. Like I said, if you want, you can try to do this freehand, whichever method you feel works best for you. Freehand or with the ruler, just slice from pierced hole to pierced hole. Now it's time to create the accordion folded spine. We're going to do a big time-saving trick here with this specially trimmed piece of paper. And you'll notice it's going to fold easily in the correct direction. We need to fold this horizontally, and we've cut the paper to be with the grain. So the first fold I'm going to do is just be, if I have the paper horizontally, it would be, meaning like landscape, it'll be from left to right. Otherwise known as the the hamburger fold. The hamburger fold, to create two narrower pieces. Now I've got two free edges here, and I've got what I would call a valley fold. Let's take one free edge and fold it up to the top of the mountain. Now here you want to make sure you really have that fold right up to the crease that you already made earlier. Then just flip the whole works over and repeat to make to fold that half in half essentially. The more accurate these folds will be, the better your book will turn out, because this is very foundational. All right, now I've got two more free edges here, and basically I have my piece in the shape of an M, and I'm going to take one free edge and fold it up to this mountain. Make sure everything is really aligned well. And then I'm going to flip the whole thing over and take the next free edge, meaning it's just the edge of the paper, bring that up to the nearest mountain. Notice I'm creasing every time with my bone folder. Okay, now if I just simply take this fold that's at the center and reverse it, so turn it inside out, I will take this edge and bring it up to the mountain to fold that half in half. You always want to be folding up to mountains, never down into valleys, because that results in a much less accurate fold. And then I'll flip it and then do the same thing. So take this folded piece and open it completely. And then place it vertically into the trimmer so that the blade will be crossing your folds. So the folds are running this way, my blade is chopping this way. Let's trim this vertically at 5. So because of the folds, I'm just having to stretch the paper a little bit and make sure it's really nicely aligned here at 5. And 2.5. Now I hope you see the genius here, because if we would have trimmed first, you would have had to accordion fold 3 separate pieces. Now I have 3 completely folded pieces, and they've all been folded at the same time and only cut after the fact. So this is going to be a really big time saver. Now I've got 3 little accordions, and what I'd like to do is connect them end to end. For that, I'm going to be using my handy bookbinding glue. So I have a valley fold here. I'll just take my bookbinding glue, which is in a needle tip applicator, and apply some of it. I got to reload this. One of the things I love about these needle tip applicators is that they're refillable. Then I'm going to take my next spine and drop my free edge into the valley there so I can hook those two together. Okay, so that makes it a little longer. I'm going to extend it one more time by nesting the last 2 pieces together. So I'll just flip this so I can easily apply my glue to the last flap. Right, and then I'll take my next piece, drop that down into the valley nice and tight and snug. You don't want it to change the height of this fold too much. It's just a nice little pleat. So it's just got a double layer right here where it connects together. And now I have one really, really long spine. So now that your spine is complete, you can set that aside. Now we need a series of binding strips, and we're going to create them from this long, narrow piece of black paper. And each strip needs to be 1 inch in width. So we're going to trim this 10-inch piece every inch. So I'll just cut it 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So every inch, and it's nice and easy. Just subtract 1 from each cut you make, and you just cut on the whole number. Okay, now I've got 10 strips. This was a lot better way for us to get this to you, was to give you the 10 strips in one piece rather than 10 little strips. We'll set those aside and then trim our gray. We have a 12 by 12 piece of gray paper, and we're going to cut this into inside pages for our book. And this is nice and easy. Just simply cut at 8 and 4. And this paper starts out square. Now rotate this 4 by 12 horizontally, cut at 9, 6, and 3. 9, 6, 3. Now I have 2 more strips. I'm going to cut both of them at the same time, at those same measurements, 9, 6, and 3. We'll set those aside. And while I have the trimmer, I will go ahead and trim the cut parts that were included in your kit to make the mini Hinge accordion book. And there are tiny little registration marks on this cut apart. And my goal is to cut the narrowest pieces off this artwork first. So I'll start out with this long, narrow strip. And I'll line up the registration marks with the edges of my blade. And slice. That's at about 11 inches. Then we'll rotate and cut these elements into narrow strips, again, according to those real faint marks on the sheet. And I'll just keep going right down the line. And then you'll just simply rotate and cut these individual panels apart. Okay, when you get to this strip, you'll notice there's a tiny little area where there's a double cut. And the purpose of making that is to create what we would call a bleed. In other words, we want the gray artwork to extend to the edge of the art piece. So that is not an error. That really is supposed to be like that. And now this bleeds to the edge. Then I'll slide it down. There's another mark. There is one little tiny stray mark in there that I'm not going to mess around. So this gives me some pieces of artwork that will match the length of my pages, or the height, I should say. Same thing on here. There are some little cut marks. I believe you're going to trim this at 8, horizontally at 8 and 4. And that will give us some decorative strips for our finished pages. 3 to be exact. Okay, I think we are actually finished with the trimmer, so I'll set that aside. What we need for our next step is our inside pages and the spine that we created. Now I want you to take the spine and place it so that the first fold that you see is a valley fold. And then the very next pleat, which I would call a mountain fold, is right there, and I want you to pinch that together. Okay? Then take one of our pages with that slit that we created with our craft knife and slide that first pleat into the inside of the folded page. So you'll open it, of course, to get the pleat in there. And then you'll take one of your black binding strips and you'll be able to slide it right through the pleat on the inside of the page. Okay, so this is the inside of my page. I've got the binding strip pleat coming in, and I've slid the binding strip through there. And then I still have this one little flap that's going out to the outside front of my page that is supposed to be there. Okay, that's part of the book binding. Then I have another pleat right next to this one. So let's take a second page, slide the pleat into the inside of the fold, into the valley, take a binding strip and shove it through there, close it, get another page, and repeat the process until all of the pages have been attached to all of the pleats. And if you've done it correctly, there should be one pleat for each page. Okay, that was my last pleat and my last binding strip. And now I should have one little free edge on each side of my book. Boy, that looks fantastic. But it's a little boring, so let's get things fixed up here. I'll take some bookbinding glue first of all and just tack down these little flaps here. I told you I needed to reload this with some glue. That'll help. If you don't have one of these needle tip applicators yet, I recommend it. You know, it just has saved me a lot of foam brushes because I can just, normally I would have wanted to spread that out with a foam brush nice and thin, but the foam or the needle tip applicator kind of does that for me. Next, we'll finish the book with our dark gray page panels and cut aparts. So I've allocated a total of 12 of these 3x4 inch panels, and isn't that clever how they come right out of one sheet of 12 by 12 paper. So once I have some adhesive on this, I'll center it onto the front cover of the book. And I've got one allocated for the back cover as well. And if you want, you can determine which art elements you would like to put on these pages before you insert them into the book, but I still found it's pretty easy to put them inside. Now, it's really up to you how to finish the inner pages, but one of the reasons I've allocated these pages, they're kind of going to function as flags in the inside, and they will also make sure that this binding strip does not slide out of the book. When you add them, you'll be adhering them so that they fit into the center of this exposed page, but adhered to this little flap. So that increases the real estate of your book substantially because you've got this page, and then both sides of this piece as well. But what's important to remember is that when you apply adhesive to that dark gray flag, that you only put it on the edge that's going to come in contact with this binding strip and flap. So now I've added another flag of real estate essentially. Then you have each side here on this in between the two folded pages, and then another binding strip. So that will be where I want another piece of my gray to live. And once I've got this adhered to the flap, it's going to secure that binding strip to the book, adding a lot of stability. So you go ahead and attach all of those pages to every single binding strip in the inside, and then you have all of these wonderful choices of artwork that you can add to the front of the book. So let's just say I wanted to put this here. I will, and it's designed to nest perfectly within this space. And I believe in my original sample, I mean, you can pick anything. If you just want to put a leaf on the front, or you can put a little expression. I think I put the word memories from somewhere. Yes, here's the word memories. So I can just go ahead and attach that right to the front. If you wanted to add ribbon or other embellishments from your stash, you can do that. And there's even a made for you with love by, and a place for you to sign your name. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the outer bottom on the back of the little mini book. And then these longer strips that you cut, well, they're only 4 inches long, those are designed to fit on these dark gray flag pages, just to add a little bit of interest to them. You could also put them on the seam here, but I kind of liked them out on the edge. It's sort of like a miniature scrapbook page. So sweet. And then you could add the word joyful to that, or put that on a different side of the page, put it on the back side of the artwork if you want. I mean, there's 1,000 things you can do with all of the plentiful elements we've included on those cut-aparts, so that the book is fully designed. So even if you gave it to someone who's never scrapbooked before, they won't have any trouble adding their memories to this and really making a precious keepsake of an important event. I hope you have a wonderful summer and that you enjoy the Accordion Hinge book from Pattern Play. If you're not already a member of Club Scrap, I want to invite you to join us. It's always a good time.